putting it under. So keep your finger on that air chamber, and now we want to attach the stock and the barrel holder. So first of all, we take the barrel holder. You'll need the ring, so the ring that doesn't have a lip on it, so you'll see the difference, and the stock. Okay, so pop the barrel holder in there. It's got a little hole in the rim, so there's a little hook in the base that it can hook onto. Pop on the rim, so that's in nice and tightly. Align the two holes and put the stock on. So now basically those two parts are ready, and you're ready to close the overall body to start testing. Okay, so just make sure everything's in place. Trigger works. You can test the safety before you put the base on. Everything's in place. Keep that thumb on the air chamber, and then through the hole, kind of keep your finger on the air chamber so it doesn't pop out. Make sure that everything's sealed, so you've got a good seal all the way round, so that the gun is now closed. And then what you can do is to attach the corner screws to keep it closed so that we can test it. So it probably needs about 3 or 4 screws just to hold it in place. Oops, helps you put the screw in the right way around. So pop the 4 screws in the corners, again just to make sure that the unit stays closed so that we can do our kind of testing before we carry on. So I've kind of put in 3 screws in the corners and 1 in the middle, just to make sure everything's in place. Again, take the electric screwdriver. Don't put too much pressure on the screws. Again, we don't want the plastic to crack, but we just want it to close so that we can do our testing. So there's the 4 screws in place. Okay, so a good seal. So that looks pretty good. So now we can move on to the magazine. Okay, so you've got the left and right sides of the magazine. You want to start with the one with kind of 2 ribs on it. There's a little piece for the bottom of the spring. Put the spring onto that. Then once you've got that, there's another piece for the top of the spring, and then there's the top of the magazine. Now you'll find that this will only actually go in well one way. Put it in the wrong way, there's a line on it, and it doesn't really sit very well in there. On the other side it's flat, and you'll find it'll go up and down nicely on those ribs that are on the inside of the magazine. So once you've got the right way up, close it in, keep the spring in place, and then put the other side of the magazine around that. So again, it should be a good seal all the way around. The top should pop up and down with the magazine. Now we need 2 screws to hold that in place. So we've got those. So one at the bottom, one at the top of the magazine. And again, screw those into place, and the magazine should hold snugly. So again, don't over tighten, don't risk cracking the plastic, but just screw those in place. So that's the magazine. So we're just going to test that fits okay. So that should slide behind the guide rail, comes in and out snugly without wobbling. Now we can do the barrel. So we take the second piece of the barrel, so this is the front of the barrel. There's an orange tip that goes on the end. So this is to for safety reasons, this should never be removed. And then just to hold it onto the other barrel end, the yellow piece goes on the other end. So let's test our paper shooter. So we're going to pop in kind of 3 shells just for testing purposes. So pop those in there. So that's the first test. Insert magazine, second test. We can test the safety as well, make sure that works. Okay, so now we can load it. I'm going to pretend I'm a right-handed person, so I can fire that. That works fine. Then hold it straight and pull sharply, and the shell fires out. Pull sharply again, shell 2, shell 3. Okay, so those all work perfectly, and then I can also remove the magazine again. Just as a warning here, just in terms of how you use your blaster, if you fire and reload really slowly, the shell won't pop out and you'll jam your paper shooter. Okay, so to clear a jam, just pull back the charging handle and just kind of manually pull the shells out. So you want to make sure every time you reload, you pull back on the charging handle sharply and fully, and the shell pops out. Okay, don't do it slowly and timidly because you think it's going to break, because you'll actually jam your blaster. Okay, so we've done all the testing. So now we can add all of the remaining screws into the base. So there should be a a dozen or so screws left to put in. So just find all of those from the remaining pile of screws and pop those in here. So don't stop this video yet, because there's just an important notice about 2 of the screws, but let's just put in the rest of them before we do that. So again, try not to over tighten, you don't want to risk cracking plastic. If anything does break while you're building it, again, send us an email and we'll replace the piece free of charge, that's no problem. Okay, so the magazine still goes in and out smoothly. These 2 last screws, these are the ones you need to be very careful about. Do not over tighten these, because it'll result in the magazine sort of sticking into the body. Okay, so when those two screws are in, just test the magazine release and make sure the magazine goes in and out okay. If not, just unscrew those 2 screws until you find it works okay. Just realised I've missed 1 screw from the base, so just screw that in tightly there. And now the base is basically complete. Magazine goes in and out smoothly, so we're happy with that. So we're done, barrel's done, and now we're ready to move on to step 2 and the camo skin.